Hello everyone, Jonathan Pulley here with the weather forecast, and today we're going to be looking at a strong cold front that's currently moving into the Pacific Northwest, bringing some rain and some gusty winds to some of the area, especially the coastline. But then look at behind the cold front, obviously, is the cold air, and this will lead to a lot of instability over the coastal areas and parts of the Willamette Valley and the Puget Sound as well over the next couple of days. Will lead to some showery conditions for the Halloween trick-or-treating time tomorrow, unfortunately. So definitely probably going to need an umbrella if you want to stay completely dry tomorrow evening for those festivities. But there is a lot of cold air, and this will keep showers all the way even through Friday, as well as this deep low pressure system kind of meanders towards the coastline. But it will continue the weekend as it does, but the cold air and instability will lead to some showers and thunderstorms as well. There's even a slight tornado risk on the coastline of Oregon, as well as some of that wind shear, basically the wind direction and speed changing with height. That causes some spin in the atmosphere, and that leads to some rotation in some of the showers and thunderstorms. And the Oregon coast is definitely known to have water spouts and some weak tornadoes this time of the year, so definitely keep an eye out on that. But I hope everybody's having a great day, and let's get right into the forecast. Now looking at general ridge and trough positions on the European model on the left and the GFS at the right. If we compare both the forecast models, you can see that this rather deep trough of low pressure is coming into the Pacific Northwest right now with that main low pressure system just off Haida Gwaii. But as we go through later tonight into tomorrow, that low kind of starts moving down towards Vancouver Island just off the coast of Washington, Oregon. This will keep cooler air over the region as we continue in the Friday even. And this is going to lead to lots of showers and the potential for some thunderstorm activity as well. But there's this little piece of energy that comes from this other trough that's over the southern Alaska peninsula right now. And look at as it kind of gets ingested into the trough that's right off the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but you can see the GFS kind of is a bit stronger with this feature and actually brings a small little compact low pressure system right in the southwest Washington with some pretty strong localized winds and also some heavier rain potential. It just started showing this and no other model shows this, so I'm kind of skeptical on even mentioning it. But it's at least a potential, and I'll show a closer look at that here in a moment. But you can see this trough kind of starts moving out of the area as we go through Friday, but another kind of weak trough tries to merge in with it as we go through Saturday and the Sunday, keeping some showery conditions going, especially for some of the coastal areas in the mountain regions through Sunday. So kind of a bit of a fall-like weekend. Then another trough kind of comes in later on Monday and the Tuesday, and look, there's a bit of model disagreement, which is why I wanted to show both the European model and the GFS. So the European model has a weaker trough, which a weaker low pressure system, but the GFS brings a decent storm right in the Vancouver Island and shifts that right over southern British Columbia and northern Washington. This would bring a pretty strong pressure gradient right over western Washington, southwest BC, potentially causing a westerly surge of wind down the Strait Juan de Fuca into the Whidbey Island area, San Juans, and Port Angeles, which models are kind of disagreeing, as we can see on this. The European model last night, though, was more like the GFS, so there is some sort of agreement, but they're kind of flip-flopping back and forth, and this is still about 5 to 6 days away, so it's understandable that there's still some disagreement. But there is going to be a storm system bringing some more precipitation, potentially some gusty winds as well later on Monday and the Tuesday. There is a slight chance of some potential for some locally strong winds with that if the storm strengthens enough. But then as we go through Tuesday and the Wednesday, you can see this big ridge starts building a bit strong on the European model, also there on the GFS, but that trough kind of starts moving over California, bringing some stormy weather down there as well. But that ridge starts to break down both models with the potential for a strong trough to start moving into the Gulf of Alaska around the 9 to 10 day range. I'm keeping an eye on this because models have been really showing this potential for maybe some fantasy windstorm potential as well. And models are obviously very different on solutions, but I'm keeping an eye on that as well, and I'll show you some of the potential windstorm solutions models that are showing. But right now, looking at the 6-hour precipitation type in inches and sea level pressure in millibars, you can see our low pressure system. This is later on Thursday. Let me go back to right now. You can see the cold front coming in with the initial blast of cold air, but you can see the really showery nature of the precipitation as we continue through Thursday and the Friday. And you can see a lot of this is going into Oregon, but also Washington as well. And you can see some blues showing up in the Cascades, where some of the first impactful snowfall of the season is expected over the next couple of days, with some winter weather advisories for the southern Washington Cascades and most of the Oregon Cascades as well. So be careful if you're driving up there. Make sure that you look at the forecast, because some of the passes may have some snow flirting around them. But the low pressure system starts moving in with maybe a little tiny bit of a pressure gradient right here. Maybe bring some gusty winds to the parts of the central slash southwestern Oregon coastline down there. But you can see showers and precipitation continue all the way through Sunday, as that other little trough kind of tries to push itself in right there on the day Sunday, bring some light rain. But then you can see that next storm system moving in over Haida. But if I play this back to last night's European model, look at how it's farther south and also larger. Look how this brings this pretty strong pressure gradient right over Washington and southwest British Columbia. If I go over the wind gusts right now, you can see this would bring a pretty strong westerly surge right through the water gap of the stray one, the Fuca right there, with maybe some gusts approaching 60 miles per hour. That's why I'm going to continue watching this, and I'll likely do another video this weekend looking at the potential maybe for some localized windstorm potential there. Now taking a closer look at things, here's Washington, Oregon, western Idaho, here's southwestern British Columbia, here's Vancouver Island, northern California down here to get you guys a picture of what we're looking at right now. Now you can see the cold front is weakening as it moves in, brings some moderate, maybe locally heavier rainfall for the parts of the area. But then you can see that kicks out by later this evening, brings some precipitation to eastern Washington and Oregon. But look at how these kind of strong showers and potential thunderstorms start moving in. Look at how many these are. This is going to be wherever there's some bands that are going to set, and wherever these set could bring some locally heavy rain, maybe some localized flooding as well to parts of Oregon, as those cells kind of train over the same area, leading to some heavy precipitation rates. But look at, as you continue all the way through Friday, Thursday night and the Friday morning, they're still continuing as this low pressure system kind of spins off the coastline. And this will bring maybe some potential for some thunderstorms as well in the mix of things. But if we look over at the lightning flash density, this is also in the HRRR model. It's a high resolution model that kind of gives us a better idea of what showers and thunderstorm chances we can see. And you can see that these colors are highlighted along the coastlines mainly, but you can see some of these are kind of getting up towards Vancouver, BC, also going stopping just before Seattle, though Seattle does have a slight chance of thunderstorms over the next couple of days. But you can see it's generally on the coastlines mainly, as that cold air spins over the relatively warm waters of the Pacific Ocean right now, and that leads to instability over that region. Now looking at 10-meter wind gusts, you can see some gusty winds in the northwest interior, maybe some gusts up towards 50 miles per hour have been reported, but this will calm down through the evening. Some of these showers, though, you can see will have some gusty winds. You can see these little showers with the little wind gusts ahead of them. Some of them will likely have some gusty winds, but generally just breezy, the blustery winds. But you can see is that a little tiny, let me refresh this real quick, and you can see how there's some gusty winds really starting to build up on the coastline of Oregon over the day on Thursday, as the potential for that little low pressure system the JFS was showing kind of moves into the Oregon coastline. If we go over the GFS actually and look at the sea level pressure right now, you can see, look at this. Look at how it brings us a strong but compact low pressure system right in the southwest Washington, brings it right up off Nia Bay. This would bring some pretty gusty ones. It's the only model that shows this, but other models have kind of been hinting at it. So this could throw a wrench into the forecast, and this would be later Thursday night in the Friday morning and into the afternoon on Friday. So if this does occur, there could be some locally strong winds along parts of the coastline, southwest Washington as well, and northwestern Oregon. and can bring some more rainfall for the trick-or-treating on Thursday night. Now looking at the significant tornado parameter, this is basically shows us all the parameters that go into increasing tornado chances, and this will lead to a very isolated chance, basically a needle in the haystack scenario, where you can maybe get a spin up brief tornado or so on the coast. And you can see these colors kind of starting to pop up over the southwestern and central Oregon coastlines over on Thursday, especially on Thursday. You can see that some of this kind of moves in the Willamette Valley as well. So keep an eye out in the sky, especially if you're over in Oregon on the coast on Thursday in the next couple days. Now looking at total precipitation in inches on the NAM3 cam. This is the North American High Resolution model, and this is showing total precipitation in inches over the next 2.5 days. You can see, look at how some of these precipitation amounts over the coastal mountains in the Cascades of Oregon and southwestern Washington are very high, with some localized areas approaching 10 inches. I don't know if that will actually occur, but it just shows that if we get these heavy precipitation bands just training over the same areas, it'll lead to some some locally very heavy rainfall rates. And you can see potentially for parts of the Willamette Valley and Portland getting upwards of an inch to an inch and a half of rainfall. Generally, Washington's going to be on the drier side, but still some areas could get a half inch to an inch and a half of rainfall, especially on the coastline areas. Now looking at all 50 ensemble members of the European model, this kind of gives us a good visualization of how much agreement we have in the models. And basically the European model has all 50 of these different models that have slight variations into the initial conditions that they run by. It's kind of complicated, but that's generally how it is. And you can see that this is looking at 6-hour max wind gusts over the next 16 days. You can see some gusty winds over the next couple of days as we get that low pressure system off the coast. Then here's that load on Monday and Tuesday I was showing. You can see that there's still a lot of disagreement. Some of these models show like almost no wind. Some show some gusts up towards 60 miles per hour. That's why I'm going to continue watching this. You can see the main run was showing about 51 miles per hour. But then you look off into fantasy land. This is about over 10 days out. And you can see some of these wind gusts up towards 70 miles per hour. This is showing that there is some windstorm potential out there. And I'm going to continue watching this because this is a bit of a more robust signal than we had in the last fantasy windstorm scenario I was watching. That didn't really occur, which is pretty typical. It was a weaker storm and it didn't turn out to be as bad. So sometimes these do actually occur, but you can see most of the model members do not show really any wind at all. That's why we call it a fantasy forecast, because we never know what exactly is going to occur, just that there's some potential. Now looking at Seattle Tacoma International Airport, this is SeaTac. You can still see that there is some 60 mile per hour gusts showing up there in the fantasy range, maybe some gusty winds also on Monday and the Tuesday as well. So gotta keep an eye on these as we go. There's also going to be some of the first impactful snowfall of the season, as I mentioned earlier. Here's the total snow in inches over the next few days. You can see some snowfall amounts in the higher mountain areas approaching a couple feet of snow, all the way from Whistler all the way down the northern Sierra Nevada as well. So just keep it. Make sure to check the forecast if you're over the past over the next couple of days. Nothing major really, but it is the first significant snowfall for some of these mountain locations this year. So it's always a good idea to keep up with that. Now, if I go over this really awesome graphic from the National Weather Service of Spokane, Washington, they always have awesome graphics out here. Here's the Halloween forecast for eastern Washington, western Idaho as well. You can see that generally most of the rainfall looks to occur in the morning hours on Thursday, but there's generally a 40 to 60% chance of rainfall and around that 5 to 11 p.m. time frame. Sandpoint's also got some higher chances. So just what they're saying is to make sure to bring your umbrellas if you like to stay dry for the trick-or-treat activities, as some of those showers in that frontal system will be moving through during that time frame. So just make sure to bring some warmer gear if you're going out trick-or-treating. And also here's a graph from the National Weather Service of Pendleton, Oregon, showing the mountain snow expected through Friday. First impactful mountain snowfall of the season. So will be limited to the peaks and crests of nearby mountains. Snow levels above 4,000 feet. Santiam Pass could receive up to 8 inches or more. So make sure if you're going over that pass that you're keeping an eye on the forecast. Now looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is for November 5th through 19th, showing near to about near normal temperatures during this time frame. As we get some ridging in, but there's also going to be some troughing inland, so it's kind of like giving us a mix of both worlds. In the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook for the same time frame is showing below average precipitation chances for much of the west coast as that ridge of high pressure builds in, as we saw for those few days. So this is not showing the next few days of rain, so that's why it's showing below average instead of above average. But if we go to the 8 to 14 day temperature out, you can see maybe near normal to slightly above average temperatures for November 7th through the 13th. And here's the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. Generally near normal to slightly above normal precipitation favored for the Pacific Northwest. And this is November, so a slightly above normal is a good bit of rain and precipitation for this time of the year. So this is showing that potential for the storm track to start picking it up again, and the 3 to 4 week outlook also shows that increased chances for some storms. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this as we go, as there's potential for maybe a fantasy windstorm off into that 10-day period. Well, that's it for this video, everybody. Hope everybody found this enjoyable and informative. We got this cold front moving through right now, bringing those that rain and some gusty winds to the coastal areas, and also the shower and thunderstorm activity for a lot of the coastlines and potentially some of the interior western areas as well over the next few days. The other system comes in during the week and brings a couple more showers to the area, but then we're looking at potential for a storm on Monday and the Tuesday. There's still some disagreement in that, but there is potential for some locally windy conditions for parts of the northwest interior of Washington during that time frame. And then we look to dry out as a ridge of high pressure builds off the coastline, but then there's a potential for some fantasy windstorm potential as we go through the 10-day period late next week. So keeping an eye on that. Hope everybody's having a great day. Hope everybody has a wonderful Halloween tomorrow and stays out of most of the rain. I hope the rain activity is less than expected, so there's not as much soggy Tootsie Rolls tomorrow evening. But anyways, please hit the subscribe button and like buttons down below this video if you just like to see more of these videos. I love doing these videos, and I know a lot of you find them important to get some updates for the week to plan your activities around. So what else? Hope everybody has a great weekend. God bless, and I'll talk to everybody in the next video.